appeal. Is that correct?
Yes, you have to explain
me to
your petition, and just again, for the record, we're on matter 2023-J-0006, Bank of America, NA versus Alice A. Partridge and another.
Hello. Okay. It seems that the the bank, or the lawyer or the bank, was able to use a different law to be able to charge me rent. It was the tenant landlord law, which is 239 section 5. And it states there that, it's not a tenant landlord. It never was a tenant landlord
Relationship?
Relationship, excuse me. Yes. And so the one that I am under is the indigent law. So it never had been a rental landlord law. I wasn't under that ever. I never was signed anything that said I would pay rent or anything like that. And I truly am indigent, and I have a disability. And so that's the law that applies. So what I'm asking for is there's 3 things that the judge in the housing court did not address. One, I'm asking for a waiver, or the government pay, or I work out some kind of a sliding scale that I can do. I can't do 500 at all.
So I think the bank might argue in a minute, and he can decide whether he wants to do this, but you get to speak, and then he speaks, and then we're done. So he may argue, well, you had always agreed as part of your mortgage that you would pay the taxes on the property. So what do you say to that?
First of all, the bank knew that I hadn't paid the taxes before that, and that's what some of the funds that I got paid for, the back taxes. And when I signed the contract, they knew that I wasn't going to be able to pay, to continue to pay, at least for those things. And so they let me have the loan, but it's a predatory loan because they knew that they were going to end up with the property anyway. And it was before the law that was passed, I think in November of 2010. I signed a contract in May or June. And the conditions on that day, first of all, they changed what they were going to give me from $240,000 to $360,000. So I had no knowledge of that. I wasn't told that at all. And they said they added on a piece of property that was next to my house, and to give me that amount of money. And that was set aside to be sold to someone. There was a problem with that too, but so did
you receive $360,000 in funds?
I received part of it to make repairs. I received part of it to pay back taxes. And let's see. I think that was pretty much it. The repairs and the back taxes. I didn't have $800 a month to get. I wasn't given $800, which is what was supposedly I was told I was given. So on the day that I was signing the contract, I hadn't signed it. I asked if I could bring this contract or a copy of it to a lawyer to discuss it. And they said, no, you have to sign it right now. So I was rushed through signing this. And I felt I was incredibly intimidated. And I knew that I should have been able to take the copy for maybe a day, 2-3 days, maybe to a lawyer that I knew that wasn't a real estate lawyer, but he knew my situation, and I wanted to discuss it with him. And they forced me to sign it. 3 people came up to me and said, sign it, pressuring me to sign it. And that really, because of my condition, they should not have let me have the loan. I was obviously not able to pay the mortgage throughout the whole time, or the real estate taxes either. So I paid the mortgage for a while, but this is I went through bankruptcy. They knew my financial condition, and I was told that it would help me keep my house by people that were advising me, so to speak. So this is another example of being taken advantage of. I think that's my opinion, because of what I had to go through at the signing of the contract. I didn't want to sign it. And there were two contracts apparently that I didn't know that I signed two contracts. I don't know how that ever occurred. So things have been, in my opinion, fishy about this sort of thing. That's
so
the whole time of it.
You had mentioned the possibility of a sliding scale. As I understand the facts, the judge already only asked you to pay half of the monthly tax bill, right? Or a little more than half of the monthly tax bill.
Now, what was that? What is the amount of that? I was told to pay $500 a month.
Right. I thought that the tax bill was $900 something a month.
And the insurance. No, I can't pay that. I'm indigent. I have I fell and my tooth came broke. So I don't have I can't even get this fixed. So I don't have the kind of money that I need to have to pay that. So I'm very indigent. And the bank knew that from the date of the signing of the contract, that I was in financial difficulty anyway, and they allowed it. I should have gone through another route. I was given a different advice from different people, and even ARP approved of those things. So, but then they stopped approving of them, and I guess for a while anyway, approving of this sort of thing happening, taking advantage of a senior citizen that is not getting much Social Security. I worked my whole life. I worked I worked at a library for a lot of the years. I worked at other things the rest of the years. I totally worked. And I even worked when I was a teenager and after my Social Security came through.
You said something about sliding scale. Is there any amount that you believe you can afford to pay monthly? Well,
the least, what I maybe be able to, this is maybe $100 a month. And I'm not really, it's not, that's going to be hard, but I'm willing to do that. And I don't want to be in a rent tenant situation with a reverse mortgage situation. I shouldn't have to be. That's dangerous in itself, in losing my house. So I don't really think I can do it. I'm just saying that because, I hope I can. And I had a house share with some people, and not only did they abuse me financially and emotionally and mentally and abuse me physically, I got hit by one of them hit me with their car. It was not, the police didn't back me on anything, getting rid of them in the house. And I was being robbed of many things also. And they did nothing. The police of Pelham did nothing, and they weren't going to do anything. I think they possibly were ordered by the selectmen. I don't know. That's what I understand, that the selectmen control the police. That's what I was told.
Is there anything else that you would like to tell me today?
I just think I'm getting abused again by the bank. I mean, I should have been canceled, and that would have been fine. I would have tried to find another way to keep the house. And I wasn't advised to do that. I was advised to get this reverse mortgage, and I got the wrong advice. They should have canceled it. I couldn't possibly come up. And this is what they say predatory lending is, that banks that do that know that the person cannot come through with the money. They know it. They can tell by the credit, by the fact that I couldn't pay the taxes then. And I even had a job. I had a job for a long time, but both jobs weren't anymore. They left the area, and one of them, the children that I worked with that were disabled, were sent to another nursing home on the eastern side of the state. So I didn't have those two jobs. One was interviewing people, the CDC interviews, CDCP. I mean, centers of these. They were legitimate, good interviews. They were trying to find out. One of them was trying to find out why people of color were dying of breast cancer. They weren't able to go to a place to get help. They were always stage 4, and so they died. So the actual government put in these clinics in places where people.
I understand, ma'am. I just want to know if there's any other argument you want to make about the appeal bond.
I just have read the laws, and and I'm not under the landlord-tenant situation. I never was. I never signed that I'd pay rent, ever. And they were using that law. I don't, maybe the bank, I don't know, the lawyer of the bank, I don't really know. But they were using that law to say that's why I owed the money.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell me?
That right now, that's it. I'd like to be able to respond to the bank, if they say something.
No, we just have each side present, ma'am. That's how we do it. So if you think that there's something the bank is going to say, you can try to address that in advance. And that's why I asked you the question I asked earlier.
Okay. So, I just think I'm being taken advantage again, as I was on the first day when I was supposed to go I went to the office, at whatever office it was, to sign the contract. That's when they should have canceled me, and that would have been fine. I would have sought another way if I could. And
I understand.
I also had a lot of, I know the bank and the town has talked about me, and they misrepresent me totally. The town misrepresents me. I don't, so things were, and also they entered the home when I was in a rehab center, when I got hit and broke my hip because of the car broke my hip that the woman was driving that was living there. I mean, I was under a lot of abuse. They didn't pay rent. They didn't, actually it was home share, and they didn't pay a little bit. The first year they paid a little bit. The second
I know
year,
we're not, I'm sorry about that, ma'am, but we're focusing on the argument to waive the appeal bond and the monthly use and occupancy.
I don't really occupy that place. I go there a lot to do the upstairs where the person lived was totally wrecked. And I'm up there finishing the cleaning of that. And that was the real problem that was going on in the house. I didn't even know that was happening. Okay, so I've put money and everything into cleaning up the house and doing things to make it better, and having a repair person fix so I could get some heat. The water heater was damaged and broken. So I don't know how that
is there any other argument you want to make as to the bank? Because then I'm going to hear from them. Okay.
Okay. And so the house is being fixed up. I'm not making it worse. I'm making it better. And they said I don't live there every day. I go there mostly to do the cleaning and the organizing and actually packing in case I have to leave, so I don't live there every day. Sometimes I've slept over because of not getting a ride to my friend's house a few friends that have let me stay in their house. So,
okay. All right, Mr. Hagopian, we'll hear from you.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, Michael Hagopian for Bank of America. Your Honor, I did file a memorandum, which the reason was just to give the court some background and make oral argument a little bit easier. This is a post-foreclosure summary process. And Ms. Partridge is correct. She wasn't a tenant. However, after the foreclosure of the property, she continued to occupy the property, which enabled the new owner, my client, to file a summary process action for occupancy of the property and possession of the property. This is and I don't want to go far afield of the facts, because I believe this appeal is really limited to the motion for reconsideration. I did argue in my memorandum that it wasn't even an appeal of the judge's original decision. I made that argument because of the timing of the appeal. But even if the court looks at the merits of the original decision on the bond, the judge didn't impose use and occupancy per se, because as Ms. Partridge says, she doesn't live there on a day-to-day basis because the property had been condemned by the local Board of Health. However, she still exercises control over the property, appealed the decision, and is seeking to reverse the judgment of the court. Therefore, because of that, the court did grant periodic payments in the amount of the taxes, which she would have had to pay even if there hadn't been a foreclosure. None of the arguments that she made today are part of the lower court record on the judgment. I know there was some, at various times, she had raised some issues, but nothing was ever developed on the record. But again, that's more in the nature for the appeal. If you follow the court's factors in the King case, Judge Kane's decision was not arbitrary, capricious, nor was it an abuse of discretion. I looked at the taxes and the insurance that had been paid. An affidavit had been supplied to the court, and roughly it appeared as though it was somewhere in the vicinity of $500 per month. Judge Kane actually took all of the numbers and divided them over 3 years and came up with a substantially higher amount. But the lower number was acceptable to my client to defer some of the carrying costs with the property. So there was no abuse of discretion. And in fact, Ms. Partridge most likely obtained the benefit of the lower amount. As far as the $100 bond, that was set by the court as a de minimis bond for the purpose of the appeal. While Ms. Partridge did argue below that she was indigent, and I assume that she did file the necessary paperwork, Judge King correctly found that that's not the only criteria. It's indigency and non-frivolous appeal. And he found that the appeal was not non-frivolous. He mentioned that in his decision. He was the judge at the trial. And again, there was the trial was suspended. Ms. Partridge was given every opportunity to obtain discovery. And my client was very patient during that time, complied with the discovery, it produced documents, returned for another portion of the hearing, and then judgment entered. So based on the decision below, on the decision of the court regarding the appeal bond should be upheld. I really don't have much more to add outside of the memorandum that I filed with the court, unless the court has any specific questions.
No, I think I understand your argument, and I think I understand Ms. Partridge's argument. So thank you very much. I will take the matter under advisement.